and we will see how this goes. Hopefully it's live now. Says we're live now. Fantastic. So yeah, with that, welcome to another edition of Nomad Community Office Hours. And we've got some lovely guests on today. We're going to be talking about Nomad openAPI and Nomad Pack. But before we just get into it and introductions, I'm just going to do a quick recap. We really appreciate having everyone here, and we love to have your engagement with us in chat. But as you engage with us, just please remember the community guidelines. Just in general, be welcoming, inclusive, friendly, and patient. Be considerate, respectful, and be professional. And with that, yeah, I guess I'm Jackie Grinrod, and I'm the developer advocate here at HashiCorp. I'll be hosting this session. So as you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and I will be asking them to our guests. And I will hand it off to Jasmine to introduce herself first.
Hi, my name is Jasmine DeHillig, and I'm a software engineer on the Nomad team.
I can jump in next. I'm Mike Nomich. I'm the product manager of the Nomad team.
And I'm Derek Strickland, and I am the newest engineer on the Nomad team.
Awesome. And yeah, as I said, we're going to be talking about Nomad Pack, which is, I believe, Tech Preview, one of our newest features from the 1.2 release that just came out yesterday in general availability. And we'll also be talking about openAPI. I believe we said we'd start with Nomad Pack. Jasmine, did you want to introduce that?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us in this YouTube Live today. I'm the lead of the Nomad Pack project, which was sort of like a community project that we were working on here at HashiCorp. Essentially, we identified a core usability problem for our new Nomad users, which is that Nomad is very versatile and feature-rich. But all of these configurable features and factors actually makes it kind of hard to figure out how to configure your applications to run on Nomad, a Nomad cluster. So we realized we needed more documentation and content examples of ready-to-roll app configurations, which in the Nomad land come in the form of Nomad job specs. So in order to improve that experience, and also we took it as an opportunity to improve the CLI user experience for Nomad users, we created Nomad Pack. And let me share screen. All right, so you could find us on GitHub. We're a separate GitHub repo for now. This is the HashiCorp / Nomad Pack project. It's currently in tech preview, which means we're going to be developing hard and fast. Some things might change, we might break things, but we have essentially a 6-month stability timeline. We'll be rapidly iterating on it, and we will reintegrate it back into the Nomad CLI, the Nomad core CLI binary, to commit to our one binary philosophy. So it's just a really cool little command line tool that you could either download here and then make build yourself, or you could also get it at releases, hashicorp.com/Nomad Pack, where you can find all of our other binaries to download, such as Nomad Vault Console. And we have a public repo where we're using Git as our repository registry for all of our packs, which currently go in the packs folder of this repo. And we'd love to encourage you to submit packs to help us improve our documentation and our content just for other Nomad users that are new and trying to get onboarded. So that was just a quick intro to Nomad Pack, and I'd like to hand it off to Mike, who's going to do a live demo. Also, shout out to Mike Nomich for being one of our best internal pack writers.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. So yeah, let me share my screen and let's jump into it. And so I'm going to just show a really basic, what using Nomad Pack would look like with a really simple Hello World pack that we wrote. And I have this Nomad cluster up and running on AWS, and it's all configured with Nomad Adder and the Nomad token locally. And so if I run Nomad Pack, I get some information as to what I can do. I've just shortened this to Pack. And so probably when you're in here first, the first thing you want to do is understand what can I actually deploy. And let me know if this this font's big enough. So the first thing that you'd want to do is probably, and I've aliased it to pack, but we have this registry list command, which shows you basically by default everything in the Nomad Pack community registry. And so this is, yeah, this repository, as Jasmine showed, there are packs here. This is something we want like everybody to contribute to. We actually have a contest going on for contributing to packs, which I'll touch on a little bit later. But this is supposed to be like the spot for shared Nomad packs, which are really templated job files. So let's just show the Hello World one, which will be like an easy way to understand what's going on. So let's say I see something in here, you know, it might be Jenkins, it might be WordPress. In this case, it's going to be Hello World. And I think, oh, that's an interesting thing. I might want to deploy it. So the first thing you probably want to do is run the info command. So it's pack info hello world, or pack info pack name. And this will show you, you know, the pack name, a rough description, and then all the potential variables that you could be passing in to this pack. And so once I do this, I have just a rough idea of how I can use it. The next thing I probably want to do as a user is say like, okay, what does this actually look like in job spec form? You know, I might be a new Nomad user. That might not matter to me. I might just want to like throw this up on my cluster first thing. But let's just like show what this looks like in job spec form for now. So you run the render command. And this with a PR that is soon to be merged, you'll be able to render to files as well. So if you want to like integrate this into CI/CD or push things up to your version control system, that'll be doable with this. But when I render, I see, hey, here's the job file. You know, it's a pretty simple service, count of 2, deploying this Docker image, yada, yada. I'm going to focus right now on this message environment variable that's being passed in. So when I ran the info command, I can see, hey, there's this message variable. I can actually change that, and that changes the job file. So if I, again, use the render command, put passive var message equals something else, and instead of hello world, we'll say step world. I can see, hey, that actually changed to my job file. And so, you know, you could kind of iteratively change the variables that get passed into packs and see what that actually looks like in job spec form. So let's say we're ready to deploy this. Let's give it, or actually, before I do that, let's talk really quickly about variables in file form. So I said you could do pack render hello world with a var command. You could also give it a file and say, hey, I'm gonna give it vars.hcl. And just to show you what vars.hcl looks like, you know, you could pass in variables this way. So I've commented everything else out, but in this case, I've said, hey, my data center that I actually want to use, pass in as a variable to this pack is US East 1. So now I give it var message equals step world. I give it another, so I could pass in a message variable. I could pass in a variables file. And now let's actually run this on the cluster. So I say run, it says, hey, this is being successfully deployed. I can check my status of various packs that I've deployed with the pack status command. And so I could say, you know, pack status, it shows me that hello world is running. And I can say, you know, get more information about this specific pack. So you could track your packs over time, as well as just deploying them. So now let's look up at, now that I did the run command, let's look at our Nomad cluster, hit refresh. We see that our hello world pack is running. And just to prove that, let's get a nice little hello world. So we'll go to one of the allocations. And I'm just going to jump right into the clients, and hey, sup world is running, yay. So that's how easy it is to run a job. So for a lot of people, this, you know, it takes out the kind of the toil that goes into deploying a Nomad job, especially if kind of going back to this list really quickly. If I want to get Jenkins running, I don't have to stitch like a million things together. I can just, you know, go to the Jenkins job, render it, see what's going to happen, and then in a few minutes, ideally get that up and running on my cluster. So I'm trying to think of anything else that I should demo right here. Oh, I think another good thing is I'm right now pointing at the registry, the community registry, but we realize that you're going to want to write your own packs. So if you're a company that has a very specific way of deploying a Nomad job, and you basically want to say, hey, engineers, just pass in a Docker image and a port, and everything else gets deployed to Nomad based on some standard. We want to make it really easy to write that pack yourself and then use that with Nomad Pack. So we have this registry add command, registry add, and let me see. And so this one right here is saying, hey, I want to add this registry. I want to call it, let's say, private packs. And as long as I could get some URL of a Git repo, I can, ingress or take in packs from that registry. So we have the community registry, but you're also welcome to spin up your own and use this kind of internally for best practices within your company. And in that case, I would say this, it would add all the, potential packs. And then now all of these could be, my own private packs. So yeah, that's a rough demo. I just want to encourage everyone to play with this as much as possible and submit packs. We already have had a really good response in the first kind of month that it's out there, and we're excited about it.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Just had a couple of questions coming in, and I think we'll address a couple of those before we go over to the openAPI one, just so it's not too much of like a gap. But I think the first one, where did it go? I tabbed out. First one was, how would Pack be catering, or would Pack be catering to tools which could be executed using raw exec or Docker? So an example, would it be single Go binary tools like Fabio?
So yeah, I think that anything you could do with a job spec, you could write a pack for. So yes. Fabio, for an example, or Fabio, I never know how to pronounce it. Fabio, we actually have a pack up for that. The author is yours truly. And that's just something, you can parameterize whatever you want in the pack or in the job spec and, throw something up there. So you could write, a raw exec pack that, does whatever a raw exec job spec does. Obviously like buyer beware with raw exec. And, that might be something we'd be wary of in the community registry. But if it had a good, a good use case, then I think that would totally be something that would be doable with Nomad Pack. But let me know if that answers the question, but the world is your oyster, I guess.
Just to reemphasize what Mike said, Nomad Pack is really like a glorified config manager for Nomad job specs. Anything you could do with a job spec, you could do it with a pack, but plus some superpowers, such as Levant style templating. If any of you are familiar with our old tool, Levant was basically a predecessor to Nomad Pack.
And then I see a question from Charlie that Pack is an alias to Nomad Pack. Yes, and that's just something that's local on my machine, so I don't, mess up typing that in a live demo.
Some other awesome aliases are NP for Nomad Pack or no problem.
Oh my God, I love it. And I guess just kind of for me too, because we haven't talked too much with me about the pack yet, mostly, but I guess the way that I'm kind of looking at it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is when you have jobs or deployments that you want to roll out and you want to make sure that you're making them consistent and that you have some kind of templating or some way of kind of subbing it in. Yeah, cool.
Absolutely. So, Pack supports sort of a new concept that is not previously available in HCL, the HashiCorp configuration language. Pack supports dependencies between job specs, which has not previously been possible until now. That's a huge thing. We've had some users that have job specs that are hundreds of lines long with all this boilerplate stuff that is basically their organizational standard. And I've seen that happen before in Docker files, in Mesos application marathon configurations, where there's just this big chunk that you've copied and pasted all across your organization. And it, slightly tweaks. And that's an opportunity for dev oops, not dev ops. So having dependencies, which you can create your own pack registry. So you can create your own internal pack registry and have pack just link up to that directly, and then all of your companies or organization packs can use those dependencies as well as anything that's available in the community registry.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think there are kind of two types of users who I think would be really interested in this. One is like the new Nomad user, doesn't necessarily know how to configure a job file for their specific needs, just wants to, throw WordPress up there or something like that. And then the other user is the organization that, has an ops team that really wants to have this process that they can stamp out over and over, and make sure that everyone is kind of aligned with the same job specs, the same, stanzas across all their templates. And this kind of templating tool really helps in that use case as well.
Really quickly answering Shantanu's question. Yes, you could have different types of tasks in the same pack, as well as different task groups and, everything that's the same as in a Nomad job spec.
Yeah, and just to clarify too, actually you can have multiple jobs within the same pack. So, often you'll want to stick multiple allocations in like a task group together. But if you want to deploy 2 jobs simultaneously, kind of atomically, those would both go in the same pack, and those could be managed with like the same, parameters passing in. So yeah, I don't think that would be, you wouldn't necessarily lose out on dryness there. And I guess to one more point to the Docker versus raw exec question I see, I think that depends on how someone writes the pack, right? Like if you have a pack, you're not just going to be able to like pass in like, hey, this is now raw exec with this command out of the box, and it won't like magically work. It really comes down to if you've written the pack such that the templating and the logic in the pack allows for either raw exec or Docker, it could work. But that would be a little bit of extra work on the pack writer's side.
Yeah, reading Shantanu's follow-up questions, I'm not sure that I don't think we have if-else blocks in the templating capability. Although we could add that.
No, we do.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Take it back.
I think the last question I just had queued up before we move on for now was which packs exist today, and are there any top requests that we have for community contributors, like services or tools that we'd really like to see packs for that they might be able to tackle?
I'm happy to take that one, and I'll share my screen really quick. So these are the packs that exist today in the public community registry. I'll just highlight a few. So we have various like load balancing and reverse proxy packs. So like HA proxy, Nginx, Fabio, Trafic. That's kind of like one set of packs. We have a couple like common CI/CD applications, Jenkins, Drone. A couple other, I think Tempo, Outline, WordPress are just kind of common, nice to have applications as well. And then there's the CSI pack for the OpenStack Cinder, and there's also a couple PRs for other CSI, like the AWS CSI controller, things like that. Other things in here that are worth noting. Just some nice ops things like Prometheus and Promtail, and Loki, and let's see what else, Grafana. And then also function as a service. That's an exciting one. So these are the packs that exist right now. Again, it's early days, and there are a couple pull requests. I'd say for packs that people are most interested in, if you go to the issues on GitHub, here are some suggestions. And also, I'd appreciate people upvote anything that, or like give a thumbs up to any of these that feel most interesting to you, even if you can't write them yourself. These are just some suggestions that people on our team have thrown out or the community have contributed in the first few weeks that this is out. But really, Nomad is super flexible, and therefore packs can be super flexible. So if there's any idea, whether it's like a common application or either just like a little task that you run in a system or in a batch job or a system batch job, like, hey, like GC my Ubuntu node or something, like that could be a pack that's shared. I'm really just kind of curious as to what people come up with, and feel free to contribute, please.
Yeah, and on the contributing side, we are going to be doing, like, I believe it's a monthly giveaway. So you contribute Nomad Packs and you get a chance to win a backpack that has HashiCorp branding on it. I believe that's going to our favorite contributed pack of the month.
Yep, and then also T-shirts for I think the top 5 that don't get the
Oh,
backpack.
I didn't know about that. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, so also T-shirts. I'll put that in the tweet later. And I guess for now, we're going to move on to openAPI, but we'll have time to circle back later too if there's any more questions on Pack or more on openAPI after. Derek, would you like to give us a bit of a walkthrough of what openAPI is?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. Thanks so much. So openAPI, the openAPI project for Nomad specifically, you can find it on GitHub at github.com/HashiCorp Nomad-openAPI. What it is an effort to expose the Nomad API to people that want to write code, but maybe don't use Golang. We've had a Golang based API package forever in the main Nomad repo under the API folder. But it, if you're a Ruby developer or JavaScript developer, it doesn't really do you a whole lot of good. So what the Nomad openAPI project is a few different pieces of functionality that exist to make that more easy for folks working in other languages. It starts with, how about I just give you a quick tour of the repo while we talk. Let me share my screen real fast. So here it is on the internet. It's live right now. You're welcome to contribute to it. Please do. It's got some getting started and kind of shows you what gets generated and what your requirements are. And it has a few parts. It has this clients folder, which contains different generated clients in languages that we support so far. And by support, I mean host. It's a community-driven project. We won't be out there writing customization for every language possible, but we might hook up some generators for you to generate the output, and then give everyone a central place to look at to find to go find community-driven generated clients. It's got a generators folder, which is really where a lot of the magic happens. We leverage a project called openAPI Generator. This is what its homepage kind of looks like on the internet. And this is where you can find it on GitHub, openAPI tools, openAPI-generator. And what it does is it will generate given an openAPI specification, it will generate a client or server code in a language of your choice. Well, what's an openAPI specification? Well, it's a YAML document or a JSON document that sort of in its own custom metadata syntax language describes your API in a sort of a language agnostic way, just talking about things that are standard HTTP terminology like responses, headers, parameters, your typical domain model around like HTTP handling or REST handling. And so, but it requires a YAML file or a specification file to generate those clients in the different languages. So what we've written is essentially like a really lightweight transpiler that looks at the Go code and with some configuration magic will output a openAPI specification that then the community, or pardon me, the openAPI generator project can consume and generate clients in multiple languages. So just to give you a taste of what that looks like, the Go code that I wrote outputs YAML like this, that sort of describes your component model or your whole API model. And you can imagine writing this many thousands of lines of YAML by hand would be really, really tedious. So we didn't do that. We wrote this little transpiler that generates that for you. And once that's written, it will output once that YAML gets generated, we can feed that to the openAPI generator project, and you can say, okay, I want to target Ruby, or I want to target Rust, or whatever, and it outputs a client for you in that language. Just to sort of go back, those are output up here into the clients directory. If you were to come consume this project, you would basically be, referencing some library that's output in this clients folder. If you were trying to contribute to it, you're probably going to be really just kind of coming over here to the make file and adding a new target. We have different, you notice the one little variable between each one of these is the language you're targeting, right? And so you just have to create a configuration file in the target language directory, and it outputs a client for you. And we actually used this in the Pack project. That was our first sort of dog fooding exercise. We built it, and with the hopes of saying, can we maybe someday in the glorious future actually consume this inside of Nomad itself. And so we've got high hopes for that. Yeah, I think that's sort of like the high level overview. The reason, so just to recap, the reason for being is we want people to be able to use any language to consume Nomad at a code level. And the way we solved it was creating this generator package that transpiles our Go code into openAPI's specification format. And then we feed that to the openAPI generator itself, which then outputs a client in a language of your choice. Sorry, a couple other things to show folks. If you do want to get involved in this project, down at the bottom of our README, we've got some contributing information for you. I did an open internet video basically showing folks how to get started contributing. So you can watch that anytime on demand and get an overview of the code. There's a slide deck associated with it, and there's a link for that at the bottom of the the bottom of the README that will also, if you want to refer to that asynchronously while you're not watching the video, that's available for you as well. And then one last thing to mention is, the clients that get generated depend on the language, and those are kind of managed by the openAPI project itself. They tend to be, as most generated code is, it tends to be kind of coarsely grained. It's very procedural. There's not like a service layer on top of everything. So if you're trying to write some code to call one method in Nomad or two methods, it's not a big deal. But if you want like the full coverage of the whole API, you might need to create like a service layer that gives you a bunch of convenience methods. And we've been doing that ourselves in the hopes of consuming it inside of Nomad, but also to give an example to the community how that could work. And that's in the V1 folder. And you can just go check out any particular area of the API that you're interested in, and it will kind of show you how to encapsulate some of those lower level, coarsely grained functions that get generated with a one-liner. So like if you wanted to grab allocations, you just want to call, jobs.allocations. You don't want to write these 15 lines of code. And in that, in our README, it gives you an example of what, it looks like once you've kind of written that service layer abstraction on top. It can become a very targeted development experience, like something like this. Each language is different. We've added some ergonomic helper methods and things like that to sort of make it more idiomatic towards Go and a better developer experience. And that's one of the contribution areas that we've got for folks. We could really use people, and we've got a gentleman named Jonathan Cross who's working with us, who's been a long-time open source maintainer of his own Python-based Nomad client, and he's going to join forces with us and help support the Python community in using this project. And we'd love to have other folks like that come in and be helpful in whatever language they use.
And just to hype a little bit more on Derek's super awesome project, Pack would not be possible without this openAPI integration. We've had lots of complaints that scripting with the existing Nomad core CLI is kind of hard, and writing scripting with the Nomad API is kind of hard. So this openAPI project seriously enables so many community projects. Even if you don't write a language generator, go use this in your language of choice, because we need more Nomad tools.
That was kind.
I'm
You
factual.
mentioned that Pack is using it. Is there other kind of examples of workflows that users might be interested in doing that you could share?
Yeah, so actually, once we get full API coverage, one thing I should point out is that it's not, we don't have the entire API service covered yet, but we're getting very, very close. And once we get full coverage, that's actually going to enable some automatic integration with Terraform that people have been asking for forever, and will allow us to sort of automatically keep things like the Terraform provider for Nomad in sync with the API surface. So super exciting stuff like that are going to be enabled. Lots and lots of machine, like the thing that is really interesting from this point of view is once you have the specification, you can integrate with a lot of machine-based tooling and automation-based tooling, right? Because it's machine readable and there's a huge ecosystem around it and so on and so forth. And so just, you know, the opportunities are a little bit endless.
Derek, if I could ask a question, which languages were currently available?
Right now, and again, it's, you know, adding a new one is it's literally less than a 15-minute process, by the way. But we've got Go, Java, JavaScript, Python, Ruby, 2 flavors of Rust, and TypeScript. Oh, that's something I should point out. Like, what do you mean 2 flavors of Rust? There's only 1 Rust language. Well, there are generators for the Hyper web server framework, and then also for the request framework. So even you could even contribute, like, for instance, this is something I wanted to point out, like, you know, there for Standard Express, for instance, there's already a generator for generating clients and servers using the openAPI project. But if you were, say, maybe a Nest user, which is a project I really like in the JavaScript community, and I want to do a quick bump to, like, you could come over here and kind of get some exposure for yourself in 2 different communities by writing a Nest generator for openAPI and then wiring it into Nomad, the Nomad openAPI project. So yeah, there's definitely some opportunities to get out there and get started in open source, and then, you know, serve the community.
That sounds great. Chat's pretty quiet right now, so I don't think we have any more questions currently queued up. So I think I'm going to open the floor to our guests, and if there's anything else you'd like to share, we could do that. And if there's any more discussion you'd like to have, or we can start wrapping off. So this is also, like, if you have questions, put them in chat. Chat, I don't actually know where my webcam is compared to chat this time, but put it in chat if you have questions. This is a great time because we can get to them right away. But yeah, that way.
Did the
That way. I don't know.
openAPI conference already happen?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll go check. Maybe we need to present.
I did Packaging Con. You need to do openAPI, Derek.
Oh no, don't put me on a stage, not that.
But you're still great.
Oh.
Mike, your question in the chat.
It's the dream.
Well, now that we have a Java driver, Clojure users, where you at?
Yeah, we're getting a
You know,
request in the chat for COBOL support. So
Y'all are killing me.
Again, you absolutely can. You can go write a COBOL generator. Oh, let's go look at their list. Hold on, they've got. I'll share screen again. They've got a list of all their available generators, and I will forewarn you that it's a little bit stale on their website compared to what's on their. Oops, I'm sorry, I shared the wrong screen. I'll bring it over for you. So this is their documentation. And this is all the different client generators and the languages they claim to support. But the reality is there's even more than this, actually. This documentation is kind of static. And so you know, it depends on the community to actually update it. But if you go look at their or their GitHub site under this long Java-oriented directory, you'll see there's even more than that, right? Is there COBOL? Does it exist? Oh, it looks like that is an opportunity for someone to be an open source warrior. It could happen. Do it.
I think we need to rename our community hero rotation to open source warrior rotation.
I was trying to think of a fun, like, do you ever just forget words that you know that you definitely know what the word is? Just my brain just, anyway, we're just gonna skip all of that. So another question that we had come in was, could the open API be used for Bash, and would it integrate with JSON output from the Nomad CLI anytime?
Integrate with the output from the CLI. Well, let's think about that. A lot of the output from the CLI is already just serialized. The structs are just directly serialized, right? So if you could take that JSON and then re-serialize that back into the language of your choice and then submit it through an openAPI client in a given language, the answer is yes. So you could write something that listened to, I don't know, the event stream or queried any one of the endpoints and that returns JSON data. You could then, take that, push it back through the API to take some action based off of that output that you queried. So I think the short answer is yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I guess, is there anything else that you would like to share before we start wrapping up?
Just thanks for hosting us and giving us a chance to talk about this. We've been working on all these things for months, and it was a lot of effort and energy, and it would really be, it's just so nice that you provide this forum for us to get to show our works to people. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, community office hours wouldn't be community office hours without the rest of the team that does all this hard work and kind of builds everything behind the scenes. And also, of course, without our viewers that come in and ask questions. So I really like this live stream. It's always really fun to just kind of engage with the team in this way, but also everyone else in the community. But yeah, I guess I'll just do some other shout outs. As we mentioned earlier, there is the Nomad Pack backpack thing that we're doing. So every month there's a chance to get a Nomad backpack. There we go. I said it right that time. Do we actually have a link to that? And I can drop it in chat for people who are interested. I think we do.
You should do it. I just shared it, the link.
Perfect.
And then Derek, do you have links to some of those openAPI references that you were showing?
I think we need
sure.
to be moderators to post links. I'm not seeing your link yet.
Oh yeah,
Mike.
if you drop it in our back channel, I can share them out.
Oh,
We'll do.
Yeah.
When are we doing a discussion on SysBatch? That's a great question.
good one for next time, potentially. Think about that.
That's a good call. And if there's things that you, the community, are particularly interested in hearing us discuss or talk about live, please send those to us, because I try to plan these based on what kind of feedback we're getting and what people are interested in. And having that feedback would make this so much easier, because then we could just kind of be like, all right, the people want this and this is what we're going to stream for them. So please share that with us. I'm just getting the rest of the links to share out to you.
When's our next Nomad community office hours?
I'm already unmuted, I see. Well, we're planning on doing them every 2 months for now. So the next one would be in January. Give some time off for the holidays and everyone to just kind of rest and recharge, and then we should be able to come back in January.
Well, I'll do a little plug shout out for all of our dev advocates running the HashiTalks Deploy talk is coming up. I believe that's December 9-10. Let me just double check those dates. But we'll be doing another talk on packs. I'll get my coworkers to do a SysBatch talk where we could do live questions. So hopefully it'll be a little sooner than the holidays.
All right, I caught up on all the link posting. I think that's all we've got today then. Of course. Anyway, yeah, I think that's all we've got for today. And just thank you so much for joining. I've already kind of asked if there's anything else you'd like to shout out. So it's kind of what would normally come next. So thank you so much, Mike, Derek, and Jasmine for joining me today. And thank you again to our community. Oh, one more thing. Yes.
I'm sorry, I would be totally remiss if I didn't take a moment to mention Glenn Yu, who is a community contributor that joined the openAPI project and has contributed possibly 40% of the API coverage so far. He's been a complete beast on the PRs, and I want to give him total shout out. And I also want to mention that we do a monthly open to the public community meeting, and it's happening in about 13 minutes. So the links are at the bottom of the repo if you want to join us. And if you can't make it this month because of the short notice, join us next month. We'll be happy to have you there, and your input will affect the future of the project.
You just one more thing, then I've got one more thing too. I just realized we've also got HashiCorp Canada coming up tomorrow. It'll be running from 10 a.m. Eastern to, I believe, 5 Eastern. I'm going to drop the link in the chat, but I believe Luis will be talking from a Nomad engineering perspective on, I actually don't remember what he's speaking about, but you can check the schedule out here, which I'll drop into chat, and we've got 8 hours of content. So we're really looking forward to sharing that. And it's the first one that's HashiCorp Canada. So yeah.
Luis gives the best presentations. You don't want to miss this one, folks.
There we go. I had to go look. So I was like, I feel like I'm not doing enough service to Luis, just be like, I forget. But he's going to be talking about understanding Nomad networking patterns. And I'm actually really excited to see that. So I'm kind of frustrated with myself that I forgot what it was. But yeah, it's going to be a great talk. We've got a lot of great content tomorrow. And the next one of these community office hours will be in January. So yeah, thank you so much, Mike, Derek, and Jasmine for coming on. And of course, for our community for joining us today and sending in your questions. And we look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.